Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about something that almost every creator experiences but very few people openly discuss. That is related to delayed success. Or to put it another way, what do you do when you are working hard but the results simply aren't arriving? If you are a writer, maybe you have reached rejection emails from publishers. If you are an artist, perhaps your work hasn't found an audience yet. If you're building a YouTube channel, maybe your videos aren't getting the views you hoped for. Or perhaps you have applied for opportunities that never turned into yes. If any of that sounds familiar, then this conversation is for you. Because you know what? Success has its own timeline. One of the hardest lessons I have learned is that effort and results don't always arrive together. We like to believe that if we work hard enough, success will immediately follow. But life doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you work for months, sometimes years, and it feels like nothing is changing. That's when doubt quietly enters. You begin asking yourself, am I good enough? Should I stop? Maybe someone else could do this better. These questions are incredibly common, but they are also incomplete because they assume that today's outcome defines tomorrow's possibility. It doesn't. You know why? Because there is a rejection email. If you are a writer, you probably know the feeling. You spend weeks or months working on a manuscript. You revise it, edit it, proofread it. Finally, with a mixture of excitement and nervousness, you send it to a publisher. Then you wait. Days become weeks. Weeks become months. And eventually an email arrives. Sometimes it begins politely. Thank you for your submission. And before you have even finished reading, you already know the answer. It's a rejection. That moment can feel deeply personal. Not because someone rejected a document, but because they rejected something you created with your imagination and your heart. I've learned that it's okay to feel disappointed, but disappointment does not mean you are weak. It means you cared. You know why? Because rejection is not the same as failure, and this is an important distinction. A rejected manuscript is not a failed writer. A rejected application is not a failed applicant. A rejected idea is not a failed creator. Rejection simply means that one opportunity didn't work out. That's all. Sometimes timing isn't right. Sometimes a publisher is looking for something different. Sometimes another project fits their catalog better. And none of those reasons erase your ability to create meaningful work. You know why? Because there is a door that is there and you are supposed to look beyond one door. As someone who enjoys writing across different genres, I have realized something valuable. Because creativity doesn't depend on a single opportunity. If one door closes, there may be another. Perhaps traditional publishing isn't the only path. Perhaps independent publishing is. Perhaps a story becomes a podcast, or a YouTube video, or a blog, or a short film, or something entirely unexpected. The creative world today offers more possibilities than ever before, and our job is to remain open to them. You know why? Because progress often happens quietly. And one thing I remind myself is this: not every season is a season of recognition. Some seasons are for learning, some are for experimenting, some are for improving. those quieter seasons matter just as much. In fact, they often become the foundation of future success. Okay, so now imagine planting a seed. For weeks, nothing appears above the ground. And does that mean nothing is happening? Well, of course not. Roots are growing. Life is developing where we cannot see it. Our creative lives are often the same. So stop measuring yourself against someone else. So one of the biggest mistakes creators make is comparison. You know why? Because someone publishes their first novel and someone wins an award. Someone's video goes viral. You know why? Because someone lands their dream opportunity. We see the results, but we rarely see the years of invisible work behind it. You know why? Because every creative journey has its own timeline. So you have chapter 3 that you should never be compared with someone else's chapter 20. Because what rejection has taught me is something it's very different. Because looking back, rejection has taught me lessons that success never could. It has taught me patience, humility, resilience, adaptability. Most importantly, it has taught me that my worth cannot depend entirely on external approval. Because approval changes, algorithms change, publishing trends change, markets change, but our love for creating that should remain constant. You know why? Because it can really help in creating anyway. So what are you trying to create is that one of my favorite question is that would I still create if nobody applauded? Well, it's an uncomfortable question because it is also freeing. Because if the answer is yes, then creativity has already become part of who you are. Not something you do for recognition. Something you do because it brings meaning to your life. Because delay doesn't mean denial. You know why? Because sometimes success arrives later than expected. Not because you are incapable, but because you are still becoming ready for it. Looking back on life, many people realize that opportunities they desperately wanted years ago wouldn't actually have suited the person they were then. Growth prepared them for something better, and that's why I try not to see every delay as a defeat. Sometimes a delay is simply another season of preparation, because success isn't only publication. As a writer, I have also realized something important. Publishing a book is wonderful, but finishing a manuscript is also an achievement. You know why? Because completing a story matters. So if you haven't completed a story that really matters, that really doesn't help in developing your craft, because it really matters. Because touching even one reader's life matters. Sometimes we celebrate only the destination while ignoring the incredible journey it took to arrive there. So if there is a letter to every creator, then I really want you to listen this, that if you're listening today and feeling discouraged, I want to tell you something. Your unfinished draft matters. Your rejected proposal matters. Your unpublished manuscript matters. Your unseen artwork matters. Your quiet effort matters. Please don't mistake invisibility for insignificance. Some of the world's most meaningful works spent years unnoticed. But you know why? Because you feel a little bit disappointed. But it's a process that you're supposed to keep learning and keep improving, keep believing in your voice. So if I talk about my personal story, then the personal story is that I want to make this conversation personal, because delayed success isn't just an idea for me. It's something I lived. I have lived because over the years I have approached several traditional publishers, including Penguin, Rolly Books, with my manuscripts. If you are a writer, you will understand this feeling that you submit your work with excitement, hoping for good news, and then comes the waiting. Sometimes publisher takes months to respond. Sometimes they ask you to wait for the next submission window. Sometimes you receive feedback and sometimes you don't. And sometimes you hear nothing at all, like I just said. So in those moments, it's very easy to wonder whether your work is good enough or not. But I gradually realized something. Publishing isn't only about talent. It's also about timing, market demand, publishing schedules, and many factors beyond our control. And the same thing happened during my job search. Every month I would send around 15 job applications, and most of them were rejected. You know why? Because sometimes I wasn't shortlisted. Sometimes I didn't even receive a reply. Each rejection felt personal. But eventually I understood that rejection is simply part of the process. Before becoming a news writer, I had to prepare extensively for professional entrance examinations. There wasn't just one test, there were multiple rounds, multiple interviews, continuous preparation, a great deal of uncertainty. People often see someone's job title, but they rarely see everything that happened before it. So one of my earliest opportunities came through LinkedIn, where I was offered company financial blog writing worth around 25,000. At that time it felt like a significant opportunity. Eventually, however, I realized my heart belonged to journalism and production. I chose the path that excited me more, even though it wasn't necessarily the easier one. I still remember reaching out to my college batchmates for guidance. One of them shared an HR contact with me, and that simple gesture felt like a breakthrough. And soon afterwards, I secured a position earning rupees 15,000 per month. For many people, that may not sound like much. As a first division student who had invested years in education, I wondered whether that salary was enough or not. But looking back, I realized something important, that there is no final destination called enough. Every milestone simply becomes a starting point for another journey. And something else I rarely talk about is the financial side of pursuing dreams. So my father invested in my education because he believed knowledge would open doors. As my career evolved, I began investing in myself. I spent my own money on self-publishing packages because I believed my stories deserved readers. I invested in award nomination because I wanted myself to become a renowned person. So I won awards, and as I continue my own creative journey, I have realized that success isn't simply about hearing yes. It's about continuing after hearing no. So even after you have secured first division, it doesn't mean that you are the topper of the world. It's about believing in your work even before the world notices it. It's about trusting your own voice when doubt becomes loud. So if success feels delayed today, don't assume your story is over. Because I think, or perhaps you're simply in the chapter where the roots are growing. You know why? Because one day those invisible roots may become something stronger and more beautiful than you ever imagined. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video, and if this conversation resonated with you, I would love to hear from you, and what's one rejection that ultimately taught you something valuable. So share your experience in the comments below, and let's remind one another that delayed success is still success. Until next time, keep creating, keep believing, and never let one rejection define your story. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.